If you want to learn more about effective management, head over to mattsingers.com and sign up for my free management training.
Welcome to the Mad Singers Management Podcast from madsingers.com, where entrepreneurs and business managers learn and share. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a review.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Mad Singers Management Podcast. And in this episode, I'm joined by Slawek from Poland. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here.
Excellent. A few people around the globe don't yet know who you are. Would you mind kicking off with a bit of an introduction so the whole world will know about you in the future?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I can imagine that almost no one knows who am I. So I'm an entrepreneur with 13 years of experience in SEO, marketing, growing businesses from the scratch. And on a daily basis, I work with like amazing people. I manage and mentor them.
Excellent. And that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially in Surfer. It happened to be I'm CEO of Surfer, so I co-work with great people around. Yeah.
Excellent. So what's sort of been the cornerstones behind you being very successful in your current role, Slawek?
I've started my it's like experience. So I started my SEO agency around 13 years ago in a small village in Poland where you can basically find resources and experienced people to hire. So like I needed to teach everything and everyone. And during this time, I was lucky to co-create and execute over 500 campaigns from different brands. And I had opportunity to enjoy a lot of successes with my clients, but also I see a lot of failures caused by like wrong decisions, lack of long-term planning, and like perspective. So like everyone, I wanted to scale my agency, and the only option was to create SEO processes to follow for all of my employees. And everywhere where you have like kind of repetitive processes, you can apply some kind of automation. And for example, like gathering data, it always creates like the same process. So you can automate gathering data to make better and more informed decisions. So I've hired someone who created internal tool for my agency. It paid off really, really quick. And like I knew that we onto something. Then like along with Lucian and Michał Suski, we decided to engage in a side project called Surfer. After a year or so, our user base was like growing rapidly, and we knew that the only option is to go all in and become full-time surfers. So that brought me here, hiring next people, managing team, and like cooperate with different kind of great people.
Excellent. That sounds like some ride.
Yeah.
What's been the most challenging, like from a management perspective, what have been the most challenging thing that you've faced sort of going through that development?
I think it's the process when you're becoming a manager and initially you are an expert in something. So you have expertise, for example, in SEO or marketing stuff, and suddenly, even if you are brilliant, which I believe some people are, you can't scale yourself to like certain point. You reach something and you can't jump over it. Then you need to like create another set of skills that lets you to manage people. And from being expert, you're becoming like jack of all trades, some kind of factotum who's making all the less visible job, and especially this unpleasant job, which has to be done. So you need to entrust things you're great at, and this is challenging and difficult when you see that maybe something isn't executed so perfect as you could execute, but you have to accept that there is no perfection sometimes. But you need to just make sure that everyone knows your company's values, principles, and goals.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think I was actually doing an interview yesterday with a couple of Ukrainian girls, and we were actually talking about this concept, right? Like I think fundamentally for me, like the mindset change that, and even when you're a small entrepreneur and when you're yourself, right? It's just so different. Yeah. Moving into a position where you're managing other people, like you really have to change your mindset, right? And that's what I work with most clients on, because it sounds like an easy thing, but I mean, even for myself, moving, initially I worked corporate and management, then I started my own business, and even starting to hire people, I was definitely struggling a little bit again, because it's easy to become the expert, right? And it automatically gets you stuck somehow, because, you're constantly trying to better things and so on, right? But yeah, that's totally spot on.
Exactly.
Totally spot on.
Like from developing yourself, you have to take care that everyone will develop themselves, and this is sometimes hard to achieve. You need to know how to motivate, how to be, psychologist, manager, and all that stuff.
So here's a great question: do you find SEO and people management to be somewhat similar?
SEO and management, I don't think so, because in terms of SEO, you need more like technical skills. Sometimes you can be very you can have like a very introvertical approach, and still you can develop great SEO process and amazing results. But with this same kind of set like principles, it's not necessarily great fit for from managing perspective. Then you need to talk with people a lot. Then you need to sometimes give some kind of speech or something, and it's totally different.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the reason why I'm asking is to some extent, the way you're optimizing from an SEO standpoint, like learning the same with people, learning to be a little bit more effective with them, learning you have a ton of skills to learn, right? And I sometimes look at it a little bit similarly, because you're in a situation where, you have to learn communication, you have to learn like setting expectation, you have a bunch of skills you need to learn. And like as a typical SEO, I'm like, how can I optimize this thing a little bit? How can I make this thing better? And, how can I optimize the process and so on, right? So I definitely find it somewhat similar, if you will.
Oh yeah, if you look from this perspective, then yes, and it's not only like similarity between SEO and the management, but it's quite kind of versatile, because you can tell the same stuff about almost all areas, because everywhere when you want to be expert, you need to develop some skills, and you need to become, achieve some kind of perfection in certain areas, and you can always apply this learning curve to like different niches, different brands, or apply the same rules to like different industries.
Yeah, definitely. What about planning and pivoting and so on? And it was one of the things we talked a little bit about before we sort of jumped on the podcast, right? So what's been your experience with that, and any particular things to share around that?
Yeah, so it seems like a contradiction, because you plan something, so it seems like it has to be executed, right? But pivoting, it's something totally different. It's opposition to this. But when you're planning something with your team, it's very important step to plan with your team. When you're planning something, everyone knows what's your goal, what you want to achieve. Maybe everyone get familiar with values, principles, and goals your company have. And then it's easier on each step of when you're executing the plan. On each step, pivot a little bit and adjust to achieve your like a big goal, because all planning you're doing, it has something like behind this. It has some kind of goal you want to achieve something. So on each step of this process, you can pivot a little bit and adapt the plan to make it achievable and to achieve even better results.
And what's been your best trick in terms of achieving goals? And what I'm a big fan of is generally like what I call impossible goals, right? But what's your best trick in terms of achieving those with the team?
It's very important to plan together. We have some kind of strategy when we're drawing like X axis. It's like a timeline. And then we connect some kind of, then we connecting some kind of dots, for example, big events in next, I don't know, half year, for example. And with those dots on the line, we know where is the deadline for achieving some certain kind of, I don't know, goal, maybe a huge product release, maybe introducing some kind of data. And it keeps us motivated to meet those kind of demands, to have everything done before this deadline. It's like a little bit self-imposed, but it really motivates. So I wouldn't advise to like make some kind of impossible self-imposed goals, but something which is possible helps on this process.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of what I call impossible goals. And the reason is when you're looking at small growth, people tend to do the same thing as they normally do, just a little bit better, or a little bit more hours or whatever.
Yep.
But when you set goals that, you know, are significantly different, then you end up in a situation where you force yourself and you force the team to think very differently, right? And I've always been a huge fan of that, because I've always seen that that's the times where you make huge progress, right? So when people are just looking at the same process they've always looked at, they're always doing it the same way, then, you know, it's 5-10% improvements. But when you force people, when you say, you know, we have to double this business, how could we possibly do that, for example, right? Like, that's the times when you really manage to open up people's mind and, you know, get some more creative suggestions and stuff in. But yeah, I mean, I generally agree with you, right? But I think I've always really enjoyed setting goals that seem impossible. And one of the key things is I very rarely tell people what the resources available are. I ask them, how do we do this thing? Because again, if you had $10 million, a lot of goals become a lot more achievable, right? So the key thing for me is always sort of improve people's creativity a little bit and really get them started and really sort of get them to a point where they're like, you know, if we had to do this thing, what do we need to do to get from A to B? Like, let's change the world. Let's do something fundamentally different. What does it take? Right. And I've really, really enjoyed that kind of thought process, particularly when you have great teams that are intelligent people and so on, that can often help you do a lot of very, very great things.
Yeah, sure. I totally like agree with you. For example, in terms of grow, we don't think like what can, for example, I don't know, grow server by, I don't know, 1 or 2%, because it's not a goal. It's always like, what could make us 10 times bigger than we are now, or what kind of feature can we implement to make server 10 times better than competitors, or 10 times easier to operate, or you know, this kind of stuff. So think big at all steps of the process.
Excellent. And I mean, you said it yourself in the beginning, but let's be honest, most SEOs are very good at micromanagement and really micromanaging their staff. What's your best tips and tricks in sort of getting out of that, or really, you know, learning not to micromanage as much, at least?
Yeah, first thing is to avoid imperfections, because no one is able to make like all micro decisions exactly the same like you would make it. So it's impossible. You're not gonna, I don't know, replicate yourself or find your twin soul that that will work for you. So it's impossible. And avoiding micromanaging is possible by, for example, letting people make mistakes on like low level decisions. And I don't know, don't bring those mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and we're learning from mistakes. So it's kind of normal. And this planning and pivoting process is a key here, because if you will plan something, plan some kind of strategy with your team, then you just check in the results at the end. And during this process, try to back off and let people make mistakes, learn from mistakes, and improve their mistakes. And it really works. Maybe not in a first project, but on the second, third, fourth project is better each time.
Yeah, and one of the things I always tell people, right, like, how did you learn? Because the problem is fundamentally, like, online, everyone's like, yeah, you just document this process, you tell someone exactly what to do, and then you give it to them and so on. And the thing is, like, I was sitting on a call yesterday with a handful of people, and I'm like, did any of you become really good at SEO by having someone tell you exactly what to do, show you exactly by looking at a process? I bet you not. And obviously I said that without knowing any of these people, but the thing is, that's not how you become good, right? The way you become good is definitely, as you say, by learning from your mistakes. And the fundamental difference is that most SEO think too low level. They're too focused on the actual task, and they're like, oh, we need to send 100 emails per day. Mm-hmm. And the whole point is, no, you don't. What you need to figure out is, what is your end goal? If you're trying to send 100 emails today, for example, for link outreach, right? Fundamentally, you're not looking to send 100 mails a day. You're looking to get a certain amount of links. And if you change your goal, instead of sending out a number of emails, but to get a certain amount of links, that opens up for the staff members' creativity. And I would much rather they send 50 emails and get 20 links than they send 100 and get 10. Right. Yeah. So the whole point is that if you're good enough to understand what the end goal of each task is, and you can set people those targets and measure to those. So don't go bananas over how they do it or the process per se, but let them figure out how to get to the goal. Right. That helps you significantly in terms of really getting that under control, and it helps you step away, right? Because it enables you to manage by the numbers and really give feedback to people and say, hey, Slawek, last month you're supposed to get me at least 30 links, you only got 20. What do you need to do to make that differently, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. And focus on goals, because there are many ways to get there. And maybe even your way isn't the best, and your people can find better way together. Maybe they will make this process more efficient.
One of the biggest, most painful lessons I had to learn in my career have been that very often the other way works just as well. So very, very often when, I'm like, okay, I'll let them do it. I know my way would work better, but that's their idea. I'll let them go ahead and do it. And then they get much better results than I ever expected, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe that was better than my idea. That's not good. But that's the thing. When you grow and develop people, eventually they'll get to a point, where even though, and it's not about doing things the way you would. It's not about cloning yourself, as you say, but it's helping grow a team of people who can think for themselves, who takes initiative, and really who, like you, want the best for the business. And when you give people ownership and when you give them responsibility, my experience is that's what you get, right? In most cases. So,
yeah.
So what's your golden secrets in terms of one of the most important things, which is finding the right people and really building a team of people that are good together?
We usually rely on our team and referrals almost all hires we had last year was through like referrals. So we knew that that the person who's coming will be a perfect fit for us because this is very important to hire a person which is which has similar values, principles, which fit for the team, and I don't know, can have even like some sharing interest. So it really helps. And there are like additional activities, like for example, one-on-one sessions, which also kind of make a team more tight, and it lets to get know each other better. For example, on one-on-one sessions, we don't usually talk about work. We talk about our hobbies and stuff and family. We're meeting a lot after work. And you know, through our network, we're hiring through our network, and then it's much easier to find something who's like brilliant, because he or she has a great recommendation. He gonna fit. So after onboarding process, which usually takes around a couple of weeks, we know that this person will be able to like fit the team and bring a lot of value to Server.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love it as well. I mean, I love hiring through my network. So again, like also for myself as a business owner, like one of the most important things to do is get to know a lot of people, right? Like everywhere all the time, just because like when you're in the situation where you're interviewing, you're already at a point where, you know, it's going to be more difficult. Your margin for error is higher. But if you know people that you have already met in person and outside an interview situation, and you know you love their personality, you love how they think, etc., like you're much more likely to get a successful employee like that, right? So yeah, that's definitely a big thing for me. The other thing I would say as well, and that I really agree with you on, is really in terms of making sure that, you know, they are a good fit. And I'd say sometimes referrals are really good, but you have to make sure it comes from good people. One of the things I've seen that definitely doesn't work is when you have people who are not performing. If you're letting them give referrals, that's not a good thing, because they're more likely to refer you people that are like them. So always, like we always look for our A players and really try and get referrals from them, because we know that, you know, they want to be in a team with people like themselves, right? So that's really important. Now, that there is also some risk to it, right? Because the problem if you have a bunch of friends and a bunch of associates that know each other very well, if someone suddenly get really pissed off and wanting to leave and so on and so forth, you might run the risk of not just one, but actually, you know, that person plus their couple of friends that they're referred actually leave at the same time. So I've seen that happen in some businesses. But again, the key thing is building solid relationships, right? And then really making sure that, yeah, again, like you have great relationship with each individual, so that is a lot less likely to happen. Right.
Yeah, we're lucky we didn't have this kind of situation you described with people, with great people leaving Server. So to this point, the strategy works perfect, but probably won't avoid this kind of stuff in the future. So we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully you won't have it, right? And it's definitely not all companies that bump into it, but I've definitely seen a couple of companies, and it's particularly difficult for small companies, right? Mm-hmm. But I worked with a client that had 6 staff members, and 3 of them were all friends. And, you know, one of them in particular was kind of the first employee of those 3 friends. And she really wanted a new role, and she didn't get it, and she got so pissed off, and basically it ended up with 3 out of the 6 people literally leaving with no notice and anything. So that was not a very comfortable situation as a business owner. But yeah, in general, I totally agree with you, right? Like good relationships, making sure you get some solid referrals from your team when you can. So yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, I would add another thing, like applying some kind of principles to decisions you make in like high level decisions in your company. Because if everyone is aware of those principles and they agree with those principles, then it's easier for you to not like get into micromanaging or something.
Yeah, and I like that because again, like sometimes if you're hiring a lot internally and someone's like, oh, you should hire my friend, and then you're like, and you don't really feel it's a good fit, having some solid principles to actually back up why you're not hiring a person is really important, right? Because particularly if you do a lot of recruitment like that, very often if there isn't any clear grounds and so on, people can very often feel like, oh, he just doesn't like me, or he's doing it because he doesn't want the best for the business or whatever. So really making sure you have some solid ground and make sure people are aware of it, right? One of the things that I've done in the past that works really, really well when you're particularly building teams like you guys are, is actually making sure that you have multiple people in the process. So what we would do would basically be get other people in the team to meet with them. So for example, if someone is supposed to join a certain team, we would actually get them to go and spend time with that team. And, we'll get feedback from the people in the team on what they feel about the person, right? Because very, very often they're the ones that are having to end up working with the individual. So if the team comes back and say, oh, we don't really like the personality, doesn't seem like a nice person or whatever, that's something where you can get some super valuable input, because again, most people who are high performers want to be surrounded by high performers. And if they see people that they feel are not, they are much more likely to actually tell you, right?
Yeah, totally right. Sometimes we have this companies offsites, and when new employees come in, especially when new employees come in and it's first offsite for them, we see how they are behaving, and it's usually great fit in our case. But if it wasn't, maybe there would be a problem. But you need to make sure that everyone is aware of each other's like value, knowledge, and expertise. We need to make sure, and you need to make sure as a manager, that everyone respects each other. This is very important in a team, because you can alone, like a freelancer, or you can alone get to a certain point, but in team, you're much stronger.
Yeah, definitely. Now, from your standpoint, how have you learned most of your management skills? Like what kind of resources, or where have you picked up most of your learnings?
I think it's probably kind of boring, because it's through like hard work and education. Really, there is no like shortages to success. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m., start my day with, keeping up with the industry, books, articles, then maybe 1 or 2 hours of workout, bicycle. I like running like half marathons with great books, because I'm listening something about marketing, business, psychology, medicine. And I always had a drive to knowledge, trying to learn something like every day. And after like those daily dosage of learning, I'm ready usually to start my typical work day. And it all together takes usually around 12 hours of work every day. And I can, thanks to this, thanks to knowledge and flexibility, I can adapt myself to the position I need to be at that particular day. Because one day I can be like psychologist, and the second day I can, test new features in server. So it's kind of versatile. And by creating this kind of routine, you're making yourself like sure that you have edge, and you have this edge and confidence, because I assume that I'm not smarter than my competitors, so I'm pushing myself as hard as I can and I believe that this is like the thing that makes difference, because I'm trying to hack myself and work as hard as I can to outsmart my competitors.
Yeah, I love the way you're looking at it, right? Because most people are like, oh, I'm too busy to read, I'm too busy to learn, I have to focus on the work. And I'm like, I mean, when you look at the most busiest people in the world, like the American president, maybe not the current one, but at least the previous ones, they spend a fair bit of time on personal development, right? And if the president of the United States can find time to do that, then you're not that busy, all right? And I think making sure, I mean, it's all about solid habits, right? Like I used to live in the UK, and I used to get up at 4:30 every morning, go running, and then studying and so on, right? So totally love your sort of morning routine. But I think the fundamental is just making sure that you actually build something you can do. Because most people are, they're trying to like do too much at once, and they're not building the routine step by step. And the problem is often when you try to do too much at one point, it fails, and then you're like, oh, I can't do it. But it's really about adding a little bit all the time. So.
Yeah, it's a matter of optimization. You said this at the beginning of our conversation that like you can apply the same set of rules to almost every industry, and it's a little bit of optimization every day.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Slawek, that was a very, very good chat, and I think I really hope people, particularly the last points here, that people take that away and really build some solid habits for themselves as well. If people are eager to get to know more about you or get in contact with you or the likes, what's the best way to do that?
I think the best way is to send just email Slawek at surferseo.com. And I really enjoyed this interview and conversation with you. So I'm really glad for your invitation, and thank you very much.
Excellent. Yep. It's all about sharing. It's all about sharing, because the more people we can help, the better the world will be.
Yeah.
Excellent. And to the audience, we'll be back again next week. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Please leave a review. It means the world to us. You can also learn more about management at madsingers.com.